Awesome. All right, if you have been tracking with us the last few weeks or watching online, welcome. And as you know, we've been chatting about groups and how important group life is to us. It was how it is that Jesus lived and what it is that he modeled. And so we figured, hey, if this is how it is that Jesus lived his life, perhaps maybe we should figure some of that out ourselves. So we came up with this phrase that we're hoping people are willing to adopt as a way of life as they come to connect, that in groups we follow Jesus in community for the community. Now, we follow Jesus because he is the source of our joy, he's our love, he's our truth, he's our hope, and we do this in community so that we can learn from one another, we can rely on one another, we can be inspired by one another. And this week I want to talk about the fact that life is not just about us, that in group we invite you to follow Jesus in community for the community. Notice that it doesn't say follow Jesus in community for the me. It doesn't say that, although that will be the temptation. Because I want you to think back for a moment. Think back to when you were in school or maybe back to your childhood, when you were a more selfish version of yourself. And somebody asked you to do something or clean up something, a mess that you didn't make. What did you probably say? That's not fair. That's not fair. At which some adult in your life probably turned to you and said, well, life, yeah, you guys know it. Well, life's not fair, kid. Right? Some sort of jaded accent that they were feeling there, jaded influence. Life's not fair. And the truth is, life isn't fair. And yet there's something in all of us that wants life to be fair, but only some of the time, if we're honest, do we really want life to be fair. I will confess that I am primarily concerned about the fairness of life when my piece of the strawberry rhubarb pie is smaller than everybody else's piece of the pie. When I get the larger piece of pie, I could care less about what is fair. It's true. I'm just like, look at the piece of pie I got. God is so good. He loves me so much. Thank you. Whereas everybody else is kind of like, what did I do, God? I've been good. I've been faithful. I've been tithing. I've been loving people. Oh, look at my piece of the pie. Why me? Right? So it does kind of depend on what side of the large piece of pie you are, whether or not you are interested in fairness or not, right? Because really what it is that we're saying here is that we want life to be even, right? While I think life should be even, I think that we can all see that life is probably pretty impossible for it to be even. There's no way for things to all be even. And here's why this is important for us to look at the fairness of life, the unevenness of life. Because if we focus on those things, life can quickly become about an excuse for my irresponsibility. If I don't get a big piece of the pie, can you expect me to be a responsible person? I mean, why try? Why go the extra mile? Why even give another opportunity to love someone if this is what it is that I'm going to get in return? Right? And these are the folks who like to compare. And when something is given to us, or even something is taken from us, we ask the question, why me? Why me? And this inward focus causes me to think, I have every right in the world to walk away from my responsibilities because someone else got my fair share. Let me say something to you, those of you who are in that direction. Don't do that. In love, don't do that. An inward-focused, why me, man kind of life is a life that will spiral you into a place that you just don't want to go. You're the one who will be negatively impacted by that type of thinking, and so you're never going to be happy. Irresponsible people are almost never happy people because irresponsible people are always involved in conflict, either with themselves or conflict with other people. Benjamin Franklin said it like this: "He that is good at making excuses is seldom good at anything else." Or in my family, my brother-in-law's Frankie's favorite catchphrase, "Excuses are for losers." He says this all the time. I didn't say it. Frankie said it. Get mad at him if you don't like it. Both of these guys are describing the result of the downward spiral of selfishness and irresponsibility that comes when we view our lives as unfair. But it's not just people with the short end of the stick who are irresponsible. I mean, we've all seen people who have that larger piece of the pie that can be just as irresponsible with what it is that they have. The more money you have, the more money you waste. The more time you have, the more time you waste. The more opportunity you have, the more time you waste. The more opportunity you waste. And the issue isn't how to make life fair by asking, "Why me?" The real issue is to ask, what are we going to do with what it is that life has handed us? So the question is not why me. The question should be, what for? What do I do with what it is that I've been given? What do I do? Good or bad? See, you will be tempted to excuse irresponsibility because of what it is that you've been thrown in life, by what it is that somebody has done to you or hasn't done to you. But instead, ask, God, what is it that you want me to do with this opportunity? You know, this, what I've been talking about for the last little while here, is something that Jesus was talking about 2,000 years ago. This guy named Matthew, who followed Jesus around for 3 months, wrote a lot of what it is that he said down. And one time he tells this story in chapter 25 of Matthew about the kingdom of God. And these stories are so cool, and they bring up so much awesome imagery, and we can totally follow along. And it's kind of exciting as you read it. And in the midst of these stories, he tells this one story that's about the unevenness and the evenness of life. And he offers us God's perspective, and it's totally fascinating. He says, again, you can follow along on the screen, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants, and he entrusted some money to them while he was gone. And he gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, 1 bag of silver to the last little guy there, right? Dividing it in proportion to their abilities. And right off the hop, how many of you think that's fair? Is it fair? No. We go, that's not fair that one guy got more than other guy, right? What's this guy going to think that you think about him, right? Just a wee little tiny bag. It's not fair. But how many of you would agree that it was totally fair of the landowner to be the one who chooses where it is that his money goes? Let's say you had a bunch of money and you were like, man, I'm going to give this to some people. Shouldn't it be you that gets to choose how much you want to give to some and how much you want to give to other based on their ability? So it kind of brings us to a quick little teaching. Everything is fair for someone. Everything is fair for someone. See, the servant who received the 5 bags of silver, they began to invest the money and earn 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. And after a long time, their master returned from his trip, and he called them to give an account of how it is that they had used his money. And the servant whom he had trusted with the 5 bags of silver came with 5 more, and he said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I've earned you 5 more. And the master was full of praise, and he's like, oh, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this small amount, so I'm going to give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more. And the master said, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this small amount. I'm going to give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. And if I was the 5 bags of silver guy, I'd been like, man, wait a minute, that's not really fair. I mean, I made 5 extra bags of silver for you. This guy only made 2 extra bags. And said, you said you're going to give us many more responsibilities. How come he gets many more responsibilities? That's not really fair. Anyways, the servant with the 1 little bag of responsibility He came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops that you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. Basically, he just decides to put it back on the master, right? The servant is saying the master is tough to work with, that he never leaves anything on the table. He's a tough guy. He reaps where he isn't sows. He's fearful of this guy and afraid. He says, I was afraid I'd lose your money. So I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back. And the master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. The servant didn't invest the money because he was lazy. He just did the easiest thing and then blamed the master for his own irresponsibility. He must have got that one bag and went, why me? What does that say about me? He got fearful. Fear always causes us not to love. Anyways, I think this parable teaches us something. It teaches us that responsibility requires intentionality. Responsibility requires intentionality. Jesus' point is this: everybody gets an uneven amount of opportunity, and everybody is held accountable for what it is that they do with it. Everybody has the privilege, the opportunity. Everybody has some responsibility to somehow, some way, they will one day give an account for. And this uneven amount of opportunity isn't even ours. It's a gift that's been given to us. It's on loan. And our responsibility is to figure out how to leverage it for its maximum, to be intentional with what it is that we do with it. We all know some five-bag people. How many of you know five-bag people? Right? I mean, they catch all the big breaks, these people. Everything they touch turns to gold, right? They marry the right people. They've got talents. They've got 10,000 followers on YouTube and Instagram, and everybody's just looking at them. They're beautiful. They get out of bed looking amazing, right? Everything just seems to come naturally to these people. But if these five-bag people aren't careful, they'll just take what it is that they've been given for granted and won't be intentional with it. There's a greater level of responsibility on these people. And then there are the people who had to, there's these people who had it really tough. They had to work and struggle and toil. They had a rough time growing up. Their parents got divorced maybe when they were young. They're kind of plain looking and they can never do anything with their hair. And they struggle and they look at themselves in the mirror and they compare themselves against what it is that other people look like, and they just feel like they don't measure up. Right? Life is tough for these people. And then there are, to be honest, probably most people in this room who would consider themselves maybe two-bag people. Right? Where they ask themselves things like, where they need to ask themselves, what is it that I am going to do with what it is that I've been given? What are we going to do with what it is that we have? See, the tendency is to look at everybody else, those who have less or those who have more, and make excuses for what it is that we will or won't do as a result of those people. This parable teaches us that we should look in our own bag and decide how to leverage it for its fullest. That we're to refuse to take what it is that we've been given for granted, either by wasting it in frivolous whims or by making excuses because of our lack. The temptation in group life will be to rely more on others in the group than to pull your own weight. Sometimes laziness is easy in a crowd, and intentionality shifts to kind of going with the flow. Well, somebody else will do that. Well, somebody else will serve. Somebody else with more money will give to that thing that they wanted us to give for. Someone else who isn't quite so busy as me will fill the void. But each of us has been given a bag or bags filled with money, time, and energy. And we get to choose how it is that we're going to use it. You can spend it on yourself. You can. You can spend it on your family. You can spend it on your stuff. You can spend it on your interests. You can get fearful and do nothing with it. But I think all of us, if we ask ourselves a really hard question, wants to do something inspiring with our life. that we want to do something special with what it is that we've given, something of value. And whether you're a Jesus follower or not, you're just checking things out today, thanks for coming. That's so cool. Many years from now, you're going to die. 100% chance. What is it that you want to be remembered for? What is it that you want people to say at your funeral about what it is that you did with the things that you were given? Do you want, oh man, that guy, he always had the coolest toys, which is good. Or would he rather hear, that guy was one of the most generous people I have ever met in my life? Would you rather hear, man, she was always so busy cleaning, always had a perfect, beautiful little house? Or would she rather hear, she always had time for me, always opened her house to me, no matter what it is that she was going through? She's just so welcoming. Would you rather hear, man, that guy had seen every movie, every show produced, which is good? Or would they rather hear, man, that guy was just always around, always there when I needed a helping hand. He always seemed to show up at just the right time. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want people to say at your funeral that you did with your time, your money, and your energy? If you want to be remembered as somebody special, somebody who inspired others, then leverage what it is that you have for love. Be responsible by being intentional with what it is that you've been given. Some of you are familiar with a passage 3 chapters before this parable where Jesus was asked to summarize the entire Bible. It's just like somebody's like, give us the Cole's Notes version, right? And he's like, okay, I can summarize the entire thing for you. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And everybody just must have been like, wow, that's so easy. I can do that. And he wasn't really doing anything new here either. To be honest, this love your neighbor as yourself thing had been around. It had been written 1,400 years earlier. You can find it in Leviticus 19. If you go and look at it, it says, God commands them, love your neighbor as yourself. And sometimes we go, okay, yeah, but how? How do we do that? The good news is the Bible is super practical. It is filled with so many awesome things that are just so easy to employ in your life. Jesus actually tells us 8 chapters prior how it is that you're supposed to do this. Leviticus 19, 9-10. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God, meaning I am the one who provides, meaning I will help you live with less, meaning I will give you some. Don't use all of it for yourself. Don't go right to the edge of the field. He's speaking to them in a way that they could understand because this is an agricultural society. But what he's really saying is you've been given a limited number of days. You've been given a limited number of energy. You've been given just a tiny bit of money. Don't use it all on yourself. Don't. Why? You will forget that I am your provider. I am the Lord your God. Not only that, he actually wants to use you to love other people. Leave margin for love. Leave margin for love. Don't use up all of your money on yourself. Don't use up all of your time, all of your energy on just your family, on just your friends, make sure you've got a little set aside for the people that God will bring into your life, the neighbors that randomly show up, the people you meet on your walks, the people you interact with in your day. In groups, we're trying to encourage people to be intentional about this. And so we're gonna encourage you to discern how it is that God is encouraging your group of people as a whole, to make a difference in the lives of the people that you interact with in the everyday stuff of life. What we want you to do is to use your collective bags of time, money, energy in order to love others. Now, some of you will have more. Some of you will have less. But all of you have responsibility in this. The challenge will be to make margin for it. The master has given you something. He is coming back soon. Don't bury it. Instead, invest your time. Invest your money. Invest your energy. Invest in people. Here's the thing. Some of us struggle with what it is that we're supposed to do with our life. Man, make your life about people. If you want to be something special, if you want to have a funeral that makes everybody cry, invest your life in people. Here are some random ways that you could do it in group. I'll just throw a few of them up there for you. 7 real quick ones. Try inviting your neighbors over. Wouldn't that be amazing? Why don't you just invite your neighbors over for games or for dinner or whatever? Just try that. Or do a food drive or a coat drive and get your neighbors involved in it. Or, I love this one. What if you regularly collected money as a group for your neighbor's emergency fund? And you're like, well, what do you mean? What if you as a group, over and above your regular giving at the church, just said, hey, we as a group, let's start putting aside just a little bit of what it is that we've been given into a pot. Why? Because people are lousy at managing their money. I don't know if you've noticed this. And so when your neighbor comes to you and goes, oh man, I blew a tire today and now I got to get all 4 new ones. I don't know what it is that I'm going to do. You're going to be able to say, hey man, I'm in a group of people who have been setting aside some money for the last 6 months, waiting for the person who is supposed to actually have it. We've saved about $800 for you right now. I want to give it to you and just say, hey, we love you. What? That would blow their mind. You be their emergency fund so that God can be their emergency fund. Or you could, what else do I have up there? I don't remember. Oh, yeah. Start a weekly sports watching thing or a weekly open meal thing or walking and running in a group or I don't know. Here's what we want you to do. We want you guys as a group to look at the bags that you've been given, your talents even, for lack of a better word, your giftings, your abilities, and then leverage those things in the community that you interact with on an everyday basis. That's all you got to do. Figure out how it is that you get to love people in the special ways that you're good at loving. Yeah? Okay. How much time do I have? Sure, let's try this. Why not? I need 4 volunteers. Okay? I'm just going to randomly pick some people. I hope you're okay with that. 1, yeah, you, get up here. 2, hi, you're just way too handy. 3, uh-oh, darn, why did I sit there? Okay, 4, yeah, let's do it. Let's welcome these 4 people to the stage. Okay. Some bad news. My buddy here has fallen on some hard times. It's been really difficult for him. All right? Yeah, sucks to be you. There you go. You're amazing. All right. Each of you, this man here, has been invited to the group, but he doesn't want to come. Why? Because, to be honest, his insecurity isn't allowing him to come. There's just something inside him that it's just like, nah, I don't want to hang out with people. Oh, those people seem like they got it all together. I just couldn't possibly do it. Man, probably going to be stuffy. I don't want to really go. Yeah, put on that face. Yeah, pretty good. It's pretty good. I dig it. All right. The great news is that each of you have been given something. Let's see what it is. What is it? What's your time, energy, and what have you been given? Oh, isn't that nice? Look at what you've been given there. Oh, look at that. Whoa. Nice. Okay. So each of you has been given something. Open it up. Come on. Everybody knows Kit Kats are meant for sharing, right? Just like our time, our energy, our money. They're meant for sharing. Open it up. Open it up. Okay. He's got nothing. Okay. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I should probably bury it in the ground.
You think you want to bury it in the ground? Okay, maybe let's say you actually learned something. What could you do with this?
I could probably give him one.
Okay, let's see you do that. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now you've got one, but you look like a guy who could probably eat more than that and still be pleased. How do you feel about sharing though?
I feel okay.
Okay, that's fair. Sometimes we're just going to feel okay about sharing. That's normal. I get it. Sometimes when we give some of what it is that we have, we're like, I could do other things with that. Now look what I'm left with. All right, what could you do with what it is that you've been given? You could share. Okay, why don't you give some of that away? There you go. Huh, cool. He's got more than you now.
No, Frank, that's not fair.
Yeah, life's not fair. What could you do? What do you want to do with what it is that you've been given? You can do whatever you want with it. What do you want to do? All right. Oh, even better. Cool. Is there anything else you want to do with that? Oh, thank you. I do want one. Wow. You know what's really cool? Is you got to give, which is pretty awesome. You got to give, which is pretty awesome. You got to give, which is pretty awesome. And all of you have just about the same amount, except for you. You got more than anybody.
I was trying to give it away. They won't take it.
Why did they do that?
They're kind souls.
Man, I don't. They love you for some reason. I don't know why.
The hair.
Might be the hair. Get out of here, you guys. Let's give them a hand. What's interesting... No, I don't want it. You know what is cool, though? Is they get to a place where they actually get to do that, though. They get to give. They had nothing. And now you are empowering them to give. Everybody knows it's better to give than to receive. Isn't it cool that everybody in that group had something? Everybody gets the blessing of giving, and everybody gets fed. Just as a result of responsibility and intentionality. As I look around the room here today, guys, most of us, we're the two-bag people, if we're honest. We've been given different opportunities, some more than others, some less than other people. And our responsibility is to look at what it is that we've been given and figure out how to leverage it for all that it is worth. How can I do the most good with what it is that I have been given? How can I do the most good with my time? How can I do the most good with my energy? How can I do the most good with my money? If you're a Christian, man, this should be just like easy for you. Yeah, okay. And if you're not a Christian, man, you're just here checking things out, totally cool. What if you also did this just for the sake of being involved in something bigger than yourself? Living only for yourself, you guys, is a waste of your life. There is nothing inspiring about that. There will be no good stories told at your funeral. Honestly. Instead, ask, how can I be intentional about this responsibility that I've been given? This breath that I've been given? This time that I've been given? Remember, God is not trying to be even. He's not. He's given you what he has given you. Some of you like it, some of you don't. Get over it. Honestly. Lovingly. Ask instead of why me. Ask what for. Instead of comparing, just ask what for. Now, you might be 25 years old and you've got this job that is just kind of like okay. Ask yourself, what for? Maybe you're 16 years old and some friend has just ditched you and you're grumpy and you're trying to figure out what it is that you're supposed to do with it. Instead of why me, ask what for. What could God be doing in this? Maybe you're a 32-year-old woman and you've got a great job, but you thought you'd be married, you thought you'd have kids by now, and you don't. Not why me. Ask, what for, God? What do you want to do? Maybe you have wasted a ton of your life. Maybe you've got more years behind you than you have ahead of you. And you're like, man, what for? Are you going to let the pain of unmet expectations in your past, disappointments from your past in your life, stop you from seeing God's faithfulness in action as you are faithful towards Him? Ask Him what for. Leverage what it is that you have been given, whatever it is that you have left, leverage it for love. Become a part of something bigger than yourself. We all have time. We all have uneven amounts of time. We all have opportunities, and they're uneven amounts of opportunities. We all have money, uneven amounts of money. But a person who can say, I am taking responsibility for my life, really is a happy person. A person who can say, I am going to leverage what it is that I have been given for love, is a person who makes an impact in this life, is a special person. A person who takes the negative things that they have been given, maybe it's negative things in the past, or maybe terrible things have happened to you. You can go, why me? I get it. Or you can go, God, what are you doing here? How can I use this? How can I love with this? How can I encourage with this? How can I make this not about me, make it about you, and make it about others? See, we have an opportunity that God has put before us, each and every one of us. He has called us to be a part of something big that He wants to do in this community. We all have a choice to accept God's invitation and participate in it and be awesome, to use what it is that you've been given and leverage it for loving this community so that people might take notice of a Father who desperately loves them. That we have an opportunity to use our time to make sure that other people know that somebody cares about them. That we have an opportunity to be a light in this valley, a beacon of hope in the darkness. If each of us would just recognize that we have been given a responsibility, and whatever it is that we have been given, we get to choose. We get to choose love. The first commandment is loving God with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength. How do you do that? Yeah, you spend time with Him, but you also love the people who are close to Him. Who's close to Him? Everybody. He loves all of them. He created them. Each one is special. He looks at them and goes, oh man, I love you. You are awesome. And some people don't even know it. They walk around hopeless. They walk around fearful. And could you imagine what it is that could happen if even us understood that? How special we are. How much God loves us. And how much He wants to use you for a part of His plan. What an honor that is. Don't waste it. Don't be irresponsible with it. Don't bury it in a hole. You are too special. You are too important with what it is that God wants to do here. The bottom line is simply this. To whom something is given, regardless of how great or small, something is required. And it's when we all embrace that, we all embrace it through the lens of a God who loves us, that we begin to get serious about taking full responsibility for our lives. I'm hoping you're willing to join us in that. Let's pray. God, I thank You for the challenge. Please forgive us for sometimes just getting so caught up in our selfishness, asking the why me questions. Yeah, this life is not fair. Many of us have been dealt a poor hand. Many of us have been dealt more than we should have ever received. Help us understand what it's for. It's not going to be just for us. It's going to be us being a part of your plan in this kingdom. Your plan and what it is that you want us to do in this world. God, we don't want to be one of those people who just choose, I'm not having a funeral. So many people don't want to have a funeral because they're afraid of what it is that people will never say at that funeral. God, help us be a part of what it is that you want to do in our lives. An exciting life, an adventurous life, a life that matters, a life where the special uniqueness that you have placed inside each and every one of us is able to come to a full expression in this world. And that will be through love. Help us get into a place where we can be encouraged to love. Help us get into a place where we can be challenged to use our giftings, talents, and abilities, our money, our energy for others. Help us find a group of people who will encourage us to do that. Help us invest our time well. In Jesus' name, amen. Maybe you were challenged. Maybe you feel just a little tug to do something different. Maybe you're not a part of a group. I would encourage you, if you are not a part of a group, that might be your next step for you. And as soon as you walk out these doors today, head to the guest services booth, the info booth, and say, hey, I'm interested in maybe looking into this group life thing. Somebody will make sure that you're contacted. Somebody will make sure that you are set on a trajectory to love this community really well with us. Okay? We only have one more in this series. Invite somebody out to it who you think might benefit from something like this. Somebody who you love, somebody who you want to make an investment in. Step out and use some of your time this week to love somebody who feels unloved. Watch what it is that will even do for you. Okay? Have a fantastic week. Be blessed.